folks, welcome you all to yet another podcast of mine. Another Friday has caught up with us, people. Yes, it has. Flagons up to you all. I'll have a single dip of this, people. We're going to crack straight in. Oh, that's gorgeous. Ice cold and gorgeous, people. What a 2 weeks in the world of gaming it's been, people. Last week we were all about the Xbox and what was going on there. And this week we had the mighty Sony showcase, or PlayStation 5 showcase as it was, and it did not fail to deliver. It was probably the best showcase we've seen, actually, from the way it was pieced together. I mean, it wasn't perfect. There was things I thought were there that didn't really need to be there, but only a couple of them. But we got some terrific gameplay. We got some terrific looks at things that we hadn't really had a good look at before. And then, of course, we got the almighty news that we were waiting for, or some of it. And then chaos hit, which we'll talk about. So I think what we'll do is, I wasn't sure what to do with the footage and stuff this week. So I think probably what I'll do is I'll probably just play the event with me in the corner. So, so it'll just be playing while we're talking about all of this. I think that's what I'll do. We'll see. But I think that's what we'll do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rattle through the PlayStation Showcase first and what happened and what was talked about and maybe what wasn't talked about, which led to a lot of the chaos. Then we're going to talk about the PS5 details that they gave us, and we're going to talk about the launch titles, and we're going to talk about the backward compatibility, and we're going to talk about the fact that some of these PS5 games are now apparently going to be on PS4. And we're going to talk a bit about the games prices going up. So let's crack straight in, people. So the PlayStation Showcase was, as I say, it was nice and tight. There was lots in it. So what I'm going to do is we're not going to spend too long going deep diving into each thing on the list. But I've just, in order as much as I could remember piecing it in order. I think it's all in order, actually, apart from one thing. So it kicked off with a montage of things that we had seen before. They always do that. A bit of a montage at the beginning just to get the hype up, And then it went from that straight into the biggest hitter of the evening. Well, I mean, it's the biggest hitter of the evening for me because it hadn't been announced yet as a game. And what came after that was also a massive boon for PlayStation. So Final Fantasy 16 was finally announced as a game. And on this event, first thing that happened, and it's an exclusive, people. It's an exclusive to PlayStation 5. So, I mean, that's incredible, because Xbox have certainly been trying to tease Square Enix into their world. And then we've seen more and more of the Final Fantasy stuff reaching the Xbox. In fact, the best way to play Final Fantasy 13 is on the back compat on the Xbox, and 13.2, and did they do Lightning? I can't remember. But definitely 13 and 13.2 were both on there. And the back compat on 13 is absolutely stunning. It really is. I think that was down to the fact that they still had all the high-end textures and stuff that they hadn't used, so they could 4K it, and also it's a gorgeous game. And then, of course, the Final Fantasy 7 remake was a timed exclusive, so it's only on PlayStation 4 at the minute, but it will go on Xbox at some point. This, on the other hand, is saying that it is an exclusive to PlayStation 5. So, I mean, that is just an amazing boon. Like, it really is. From a third-party studio, which is technically now becoming a second-party studio, if they're going to they're not owned by PlayStation. So, anyone that doesn't realise what I'm on about, first party is a studio that's owned by PlayStation or Xbox that makes games just for them. And, well, not necessarily just for them, but, there's a few exceptions to that rule, but mainly they just make games for them. I mean, one exception to the rule would be Minecraft, which Microsoft bought Mojang over, but Minecraft is still on PlayStation, so, But the first party studios just make games for their consoles. Third-party games are people like Ubisoft and EA and, all of these big companies and Bungie and all that make games that are for all the platforms and the PCs and everything else. second party is somebody that might make a game for a company as an exclusive, but they will still make other games that go, or they're not owned basically by the company that they're making the exclusive for. Bloodborne's another example. Bloodborne's an exclusive to Sony, but From Software isn't owned by Sony. They're not a PlayStation studio, but they made that game just for them. Alan Wake would be another example, because Remedy weren't owned by Microsoft, but they specifically made that game for Microsoft. So, second party studio. So there you go. We learn something new every day, people. Some of you might have known that, some of you might not. So to see Square Enix giving Final Fantasy 16 just to Sony, I mean, there's a little piece of me that I'm trying to remember now if it said PlayStation 5 exclusively or whether it said exclusively on PlayStation. Somebody let me know in the comments below if you know the answer to this. I mean, obviously I'm recording this and it might be up behind me telling us that, but let me know in the comments below if you know that it's PlayStation, not PlayStation 5. That meaning that it might actually be on PlayStation 4 as well. Because when I looked at it graphically, I did not look at it. I mean, it looked great. But here's what I thought about it, actually. It looked... when I first saw it, I was kind of like, this doesn't look amazing. And I thought it looks a bit weak graphically. And then halfway through the trailer, I thought, oh, this looks really good now. When it started getting into all the action elements and stuff like that. So it was kind of a 50-50. But the reason that I think that it might be PS4 as well is because I think the reason they might have got the exclusivity is because Square Enix know there's so many PlayStation 4s out there, and then of course PlayStation 5's coming, that it's a gazillion pounds anyway, or gazillion dollars or whatever, All right, you are losing a part of a market, but you know that even though it says PlayStation exclusive, it will say it'll be a console exclusive. It will still probably end up on PC as well. So, and Sony will pay them money for that as well. So Sony will pay them money to say that they're getting it and Xbox aren't. So their quid's in whatever happens. Would that same deal have been made with Microsoft based on the amount of Xbox Ones that are out there? Probably not, because there's probably not enough of them to justify it unless Microsoft paid them $1 billion or something to have it as an excuse. So anyway, it was a massive boon to get that. It looks interesting, this game. I said I wasn't going to deep dive, but I will a little bit on this one, because this game actually looked a lot more like Final Fantasy VII Remake in its play style. It also looked like you were playing as a singular character and not as a party. That could be that we were just seeing some early on footage. That did happen with Final Fantasy VII Remake as well. We saw a lot of Cloud fighting by himself. So, and then later on we saw some party footage of him playing with all the different characters and fighting with all the different characters. So it could be that there is still party fighting, but it did look very single player when we were looking at the footage that they showed us. It also looked very, I don't know, it looked Dark Soulsy in places. It looked very bloody in places. It's a medieval setting as opposed to some sci-fi setting, which is really cool. And apparently it's the people that were involved in making the online one, which have been involved in making this one. And from what I've heard, I played Final Fantasy for, what's the online one, 14? I played that a long time ago. It's still going. It's still a very, very strong product. And, it's an MMO, and I kind of got my fun out of it, and that was that. But it didn't keep me hooked for too long. But apparently the writing for that game, story-wise, has been absolutely fantastic. So if that all comes across into Final Fantasy 16, that'll be great. I love the fact it's a medieval world. So, and I think by the very nature of that, they have gone dark with it. There's a lot of blood being splattered everywhere. And, so there's an element of grittiness that isn't often there with a Final Fantasy game, because Final Fantasy, I don't remember blood being in Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is all very slash someone with a sword and you don't see any kind of impact other than they go, oh! I don't remember seeing blood anywhere. So, yeah, it's really, really interesting. I'm really excited to see more of it. Did the graphics blow me away? No, they didn't. But hey, look, it's Final Fantasy. I'm sure it'll look great when it comes out, and I'm sure we'll all be stoked for it. And the thing that kind of frustrates me with Final Fantasy a little bit is that it used to be, back in the day on the PS2, and even the PS3 to some extent, it used to be the one that you thought, oh, this is going to look better than anything we've seen before. And yet through the years since then, it seems to not punch that high anymore. You know, it's always it always delivers to some degree. I wasn't a fan of 15 at all. I've tried to get into that game twice and it's just not for me. I mean, I don't know what they were trying to do with that game, but it wasn't for me. And I feel like I don't know what's going on with it, but I feel like they don't really push the boundaries graphically anymore. It's kind of, they've got a way of doing their style and that's what they stick to. They don't try and push any great boundaries with it. You know, I remember when Final Fantasy X came out and I was blown away by how good it looked. It was like the best looking thing I'd ever seen anywhere, you know, Final Fantasy X when it came out at the time on PS2. So anyway, I'm still really excited for it. It just didn't blow my mind graphically, but well, you know, as time goes on, but it's not that far away as well. It's a 2021 release date. I mean, hey, it's Final Fantasy. It'll probably get pushed back 3 years, but they've said it's for 2021. So hey, anyway, super stoked for that. I'm not going to deep dive as much into the rest of it as I did with that. So the next one up was Spider-Man Miles Morales, which it looked. Listen, I'm not stoked for Spider-Man at the minute. I'm superheroed out. I couldn't finish the original Spider-Man game. Not that there was anything wrong with it. I just wasn't in the zone. At some point, and I hope on the PS5 when all the loading screens have gone and everything, I'll just be able to zoom about at some point when I get a vibe for being Spider-Man, and I'll love it. And I'll, you know, there's no doubt at some point I will love that game. Every now and then I come across a game where I just I'm not in the zone for it. And then, you know, 2 years later, I'll play it and go, that's the best thing I've played in ever. I've done it with so many games. So it looked great. It looked fantastic. Did it look like a new gen game? Not to me. No, it looked like it was. Well, we know now, and I've probably got notes for this later, but we know. Well, I have actually. We'll come back to that. But it looked, at the beginning, I was texting Aaron Brew, my son, all the way through this. And the minute it came on, and there was a bit of him as Spider-Man, then he kind of ends up going into normal clothing and walking up a street. And I was like, it looks nice, but it just looks like PS4. It doesn't look like, you know, it was captured on a PS5, but to me, graphically, it looked like it could easily be playing on a PS4. And then once we got onto the massive bridge section where everything was kicking off, that looked really spectacular. But is that something that isn't going to work on a PS4? No, it's not. And we know it's not because we'll talk about it later. So I'm not stoked for it, but I get why people are stoked for it. But it's not a full-on game, remember. It's almost a DLC type game for the original Spider-Man game that they made, Insomniac. So I guess maybe that's part of the reason I'm not overly stoked for it as well. And then we moved on from that. I mean, it was a massive hitter at the beginning, this showcase, onto the Harry Potter game that everybody's been saying, where the hell is this thing? Because 2 years ago or something, people got their hands on with it to try it out in some sort of secret place. And rumours spread about it, but nothing was ever revealed about it. And finally, in this showcase, it was announced. It's called Hogwarts Legacy, and it looks really interesting. Nothing was blowing me away graphically again, and I suspect that that's because it is a cross-gen game. I'm thinking that's going to be I think it's going to be on all consoles, and I think it will be on, you know, Xbox One and Xbox Series blah, and it will be on PS4 and PS5. So, but it looked great fun. It had all the music, had all the vibe of Harry Potter, and basically the idea is you create your own little wizard. And you have your own story, and you go through Hogwarts, and you play through like an RPG. You play through as your own little wizard through the Hogwarts, you know, schooling years and stuff. And it looked really cool. I mean, I'll absolutely be giving that a go. It looked fantastic. So it was exciting to see that. Next up was Call of Duty Cold War. Now, this is the first Call of Duty I've been excited for a really long time. I mentioned it in a previous podcast, and I don't know. I think because it's set in the 80s and the original Cold War, the original Black Ops game, because it's Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, isn't it? The original Call of Duty Black Ops was probably the last one that I really liked. The last one I played was Ghosts, and the last one I really loved was probably, I think it was Black Ops, the first Black Ops game. So I'm just really stoked for this game. It's given me every kind of yes vibe. So I think it might be the first Call of Duty game I bought. And I don't buy Call of Duty to play it online, people. If I buy a Call of Duty game, it's because I want to see the campaign. And it always delivers on the campaign, Call of Duty. I always... I mean, I know I've not played it for a long time, but even Ghosts, which wasn't the best of the COD lot, was still a great campaign. It always delivers really fun moments in their campaign. It's just adrenaline-driven action. It's just fantastic. Next up was Resident Evil 8, or Resident Evil Village, or Resident Evil 8 Village, whichever way you want to say it. But they showed quite a bit off there of that as well. That looks great. That actually, like, looking at some of, and it was a bit like that with 7, to be fair. Some of the environment walkabouts looked really real, like photographic real. I mean, really, really impressive. And it looked even more so in this one. But it really does look like they have gone with the entire vibe of Resident Evil 4, but in first person. And I think that, I've said it before and I'm saying it again, people, but I think that's why the remake of Resident Evil 4 is happening before a remake of Code Veronica X, because I think they wanted to tie in the remake of Resi 4 being the same similar vibe. And there was also rumours that the story kind of might cross over. We don't know that. I'm not sure what the time frames are and stuff. Chris Redfield certainly seems to be mentioned. There's a mention of Chris right at the beginning of the clip. So yeah, I'm seriously stoked for that. I kind of still wish that the Resi games were third person, but I understand the remakes, we're getting them in third person, so they're sticking with this first person vibe for these ones. It's fine. But it looks really, really cool, really, really dark, really, really scary, really, really sort of, there's almost an element of a lot of witchcraft and all sorts going in this one. It looks really, really freaky. Next up was Oddworld Soulstorm, which is a slightly smaller developer doing it, but Oddworld's been going for years and years. I'm saying a smaller developer, it must be, but Oddworld's been going for years and years, and I've never quite got into it. But this one, I've said it in another podcast. I'm really looking forward to seeing a bit more of it. I mean, it looks amazing. Graphically, it looks insane. Gameplay wise, it looks really fun. So I think it might be a game that draws me in at some point. You know, it won't be a day one for me, but I'll definitely be buying it at some point and giving it a whirl. It looks fantastic. Then there was Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, which I won't be playing. I'm not really into that sort of stuff. Then there was Deathloop, was an interesting one because I just thought they would hush about Deathloop now that they've delayed it, but they haven't done. And I think the reason they didn't go quiet on it is because it is an exclusive. It's a Sony exclusive, so, which is interesting because it's Arcane Studios, I think. So all the other games they've done have been for cross-gen. But anyway, cross-console. You know what I mean. What I'm looking for, people. For all consoles of all types. So, yeah, I'm... The problem with these Arcane Studio games is every time I see one, it looks like... It looks exactly like the gameplay from Dishonored, just tweaked to be modern or tweaked to be old or tweaked to be, you know, in this case, the 70s or whatever. The style of it looks amazing. The vibe looks fantastic, but I just feel like it's a little bit of copy and paste with a different story on top with the Arcane Studio stuff at this point. And that might have been okay if I'd ever actually fallen in love with any of their games, but I just haven't. There's just always been this kind of element missing, and I've never quite been able to put my finger on what it was that didn't quite make me go, Dishonored was the best game I've ever played. You know, I got to the end of Dishonored 1 and I got to the last level, I think, and I just didn't finish it for whatever reason. And I got a lot of fun out of it, but it was just like, you know, it's not like it's gonna... I wasn't overly stoked for 2. I did play it for a bit. I never got as far with 2 as I did with 1, though. And I played Prey, which was the other one from them. And again, it was I was expecting to love that as much as something like Dead Space, for example. And it was great for a bit, but then it just frustrated me in places, like the loading screens to go from one part of the thing to the other. And, you know, the way that Dead Space dealt with that was so clever that there was you didn't feel like you were ever waiting to move into the next part of the ship or the next part of the space station. But in Prey, it was like, oh God, I've got to open this door and I'm going to be sat in a waiting screen for bloody ages. And the enemies became very similar as well. There wasn't a huge variety in the enemy types. So I never finished it, shockingly. So yeah, so Deathloop. Then there was my game of the night, which was Demon's Souls, because Demon's Souls remake, and they showed us proper gameplay footage. This is an absolute exclusive for PlayStation 5. It will not be on the old consoles, and you can tell when you look at this gameplay, it looks incredible. It looks really, really, really shiny, people. It looks fantastic. I mean, it was interesting because I recognised the sections being played because they're the opening sections of the original game, because they're obviously doing it, you know, level for level, like for like, pretty much, I would have assumed. So they built it from the ground up, but they're doing it, you know, exactly as it was, I think. So it was really interesting seeing those being played in such uber graphics. It looked fantastic, and that's going to be my day one play with the PlayStation title, because that is just absolutely worth buying that PlayStation 5 for me. And yes, it is a launch title, and we'll come on to why that was stupid that they didn't even tell us during it. So Demon's Souls, then there was Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Fortnite on PS5 was confirmed, and then so this is the bit that's kind of out of order, because at some point in this, they announced that they were doing a PlayStation Plus collection. So if you've got PS Plus as a subscription, which I don't at the moment, but if you like in the existing days, you would get like 3-4 games a month or something like that you could download and play for free if you were part of that subscription service. Now, if you're part of the I don't quote me on this as fact, but I don't know whether it's PS Plus standard subscription that will get you this, or whether you now need the PS Plus collection edition of I don't know, but it seemed to suggest that if you had PlayStation Plus, you would get the PlayStation Plus collection as part of that. So basically, on the PS5, when you get it, there was a massive list of all the great a lot of the great games that have made the PS4 a big hitter. So, for example, there was God of War in there was The Last of Us Remastered, and just a whole stream of first-party titles that were massive on the PS4. Interestingly, the newer ones aren't on there, but they may be added later. Things like The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, you can understand that. And that's fine, because they're still very, very new games. So, but there was a lot of big hitter first-party games from PS4 in there, people. I mean, it's a great offering, and I think this is Sony's way of combating the Xbox Games Pass to some level. It's not up to that level because you don't get their games like, if you're a member, you don't get a first-party game at launch or anything like that, like you do with Xbox. But it is a great offering if you're going to buy a PlayStation 5. I mean, it's just immediately like, okay, I'm going to buy a PlayStation 5. Maybe I'm a new gamer and I never had a PS4, or maybe, you know, I haven't played those games for whatever reason. You don't even have to buy a game at launch. Like, all you have to do is subscribe for your $7.99 a month or whatever it is now, and you'll get all of those titles to play. I mean, it's a fantastic offering. It really, really is. It's fantastic. Really good. And then it went from... So that was out of sync, because Fortnite was the last thing to happen, I think. And then they went on to the release dates and prices. So they announced the release dates, which in a bunch of countries, not the UK, is the 12th of November. I think the United States of America is the 12th, and a whole bunch of other people are the 12th of November. And then a week later, it is the United Kingdom and a bunch of other people. So you need to check your regions and places as to which one you fall on. But here in the UK, it is the 19th. And in the United States, I think it's the 12th. Which is a little bit shabby, people. You know what I mean? Can't be doing with somebody playing Demon's Souls 7 days before me. You know what I mean? Shocking. Yeah. I don't know what the delay is, but Certainly, I'm pretty sure that didn't happen with the PS4. It was everybody on day one. My personal feeling on this is that they need the extra time to ship the hardware to the relevant countries, because clearly things are more difficult with COVID getting them all around the world. Because I think all of the PlayStations are made in Japan, so they're not made, in. So whatever the cause is, I think it isn't because it's just too much faff. I think it's just they need more time to get the consoles physically into those countries for stock, is my thoughts on that. So that's fine. It's okay. I understand. We understand if that's the reason, it's fine. So here's what wasn't in there. I will come back to the prices and stuff. I'll give you all of that after what I tell you wasn't there. So everybody was like, yes, we've got the prices, we've got the release dates, we've got, And then it ended, and it was like, yeah, but hang on a minute, they've not told us when we can pre-order them. Demon's Souls at that point hadn't been, nothing on it said that it was a launch title. It didn't even give a date or anything. It didn't say any sort of like this holiday or anything. It didn't say anything. So that was a head scratcher. Then it didn't mention anything about backward compatibility, so we still didn't know what was going on there. And I've got a note here, although I wouldn't have expected it in that, to say that we've got no news as to what we're meant to do with moving saves or moving profiles over from one console to the next, or whether we do or whether we don't, need to find all that out. So it was just odd that they didn't tell us certain things. So after the event had finished, we then got this. It was the PlayStation blog, because Aaron Bruce started texting me going, this is all coming out the woodwork. They're now saying that Demon's Souls is a launch title. It's out on day one, so that was great news. And then a whole bunch of other things started leaking out about the backward compatibility. Then got mentioned again, and they said, yeah, 99% of the thousands of titles that we've, 1,000 plus titles, whatever it is, that we've tested are spot on for backward compatibility. So we know that backward compatibility in the main part is going to be fine. There might just be the odd game that needs some sort of sorting out. So that was great news as well. But these were things that you thought, well, why didn't you just say it in the briefing? Like, why have you made people panic? And and then of course they didn't tell us when the pre-orders were. And then in the blog, the PlayStation blog, they suddenly started saying, oh yeah, you can pre-order them tomorrow, and in some cases you might be able to pre-order them tonight, I think, but they definitely said you can pre-order them tomorrow. And then just chaos happened after that, because certain companies who were online suddenly went, well, if you can go into our shop and buy it tomorrow, or pre-order it tomorrow, or you can just pre-order it now. And then it was just mayhem. It's like, and I was like, well, Amazon didn't do that, and that's where I would normally have bought mine. Then there was other places in America. I think GameStop Online might have kicked off, or somebody kicked off. Might not have been them. So I refused to go to bed because I thought, oh my God, that I'm going to wake up and they'll all have gone. Now, I needn't have worried, actually, in the end, because in the end, Amazon, after... So basically what happened was I went on to Game, who I've not used in quite a while. And I think, actually, now that I say that, I think I might have got my PS4 Pro from them. For whatever reason, I can't remember why. I think it was just easy at the time, because the gym I was at was inside this sort of shopping centre in Edinburgh, and there was a game downstairs, and I thought I'll just do it there. So yeah, and they delivered it still anyway, I think, if I remember rightly. Could be wrong about that. Anyway, my memory's not what it was, people. So anyway, I went on to Game Online, and it seemed to take me forever to actually get... No, I'll tell you what happened. I went for the big bundle, which had the PlayStation 5, the headset, the remote, the controller chargers, basically all the bits, and extra controller, that sort of stuff. It was about $695 or something. It was $699. It might be $699.95 or something. £700, I suppose. And then I thought, fine, I'm going to get that. I'm going to sign in, and job's done. but it wouldn't let me sign in, and it just wouldn't work. Like, signing in wouldn't work. And it said, if you can't sign in, do it as a guest. The problem is, if you do it as a guest, you don't get the gamer points. In this case, it's about £7 back if you to spend on something else. And also, it's not logged in your history of sales or stuff like that. So I was really reluctant to do it. And then I noticed that after about half an hour of trying to do this, I noticed that everybody else was having the same problem. They were just booking out as guests. So by the time I realised that was the case, I thought, well, sod it. I'm going to have to just book it as a guest. I went to book it, proceed, and then it went, oh, it's no longer available, because I'd sat there for half a bloody hour trying to log in to buy it. It was like, no. So I then kind of jumped around the other options, managed to find there was the PS5 with the extra controller, and that was it. So I managed to get that pre-ordered as a guest. And the following day, I didn't bother with anything else at that point. I thought, I don't care. I've got my console. I've got my extra controller. Job done. The following day, just after that, literally 5 minutes after I'd just gone through all of that mayhem, I then got an email from Amazon, because I'd said to Amazon, send me an email when, I didn't tell them, There was an option, people. I'm not in touch with the head of Amazon or anything. There was an option to say, notify me when this is available. So not 5 minutes after all of that chaos, I got an email from Amazon saying the PlayStation 5 will be available for pre-order tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. And I thought, well, I could have just waited, And sure enough, it went live at 8 a.m. So what I've done is I then used Amazon to order... Try to remember now. I got the headphones from Amazon, and then I had to get the thing that seems to sell out really fast is the dual charger for the controllers. So you put two controllers in it. I've got one for the PS4. And in the end, I had to get that from Shop2. Shop2 were the only people that seemed to have any left, because they went live later. And that was a whole other horrendous nightmare in itself, because they had the same problem. I couldn't log in. I had to do it as a guest. It kept failing every time I tried to. I mean, it took me the best part of an hour, and I still hadn't managed to buy this thing that was available, but it just kept falling on its arse every time I wanted to pay for it. And eventually things must have calmed down a little bit, and I was eventually able to pre-order it as a get. No, I finally was able to log in, and I did it under my account. So I'm now sorted for. I've got a pre-order from PS5 with the extra controller, the dual charge kit, and the 3D headset, because I really want to experience the 3D audio that they're now pushing just beyond belief of how amazing it is. So I want to be able to experience it and just see just how fantastic it is. And plus, the headphones that I've got are great, but they're really heavy, and they become quite uncomfortable after wearing them for a long time. They're great Turtle Beaches, but I think this gen I'm probably going to end up with a pair of headphones for the PlayStation and a pair of headphones for the Xbox, and I'll get a little stand to sit them on. So that was just, it was crazy. And then I managed to do that and get it all sorted in the morning. And then it was just chaos for everybody. Everybody was trying to get their hands on one. Honest to God, it was no more than maybe 20 minutes before places were selling out. Amazon had sold out so quickly, it was just ridiculous. And there was also the added bonus that when you went on Amazon on the mobile app and you hit order it, it wouldn't order it, and it kept jumping back to the home screen. So if you didn't do it on a PC, which is where I was, it worked fine on a PC or a laptop as it was for me, but it wouldn't work on a mobile phone app. I think my mate Craigie boy, he managed to get his sorted on an iPad because he was away from home, so he didn't have access to a laptop, but he managed to get it on an iPad, I think using the website rather than using the mobile app. So it was just crazy, and it's still crazy. There's so many people disappointed at the moment that haven't managed to get one, and I think the last people to be putting them up for pre-order is Argos in this country, and trying to remember if it was today they went live with it. I think it might be tomorrow, you know. But I think Argos is a lot of people's last hope, and they're going to get bombarded as well. So I think that the important thing to note here is, though, there was a note out today from the head of Sony, and he said, well, there'll be more PS5s available at launch than there was PS4s. And it seems they seem to be suggesting that what we've pre-ordered now is not what's going to be available at launch. There will be more than that available at launch. It's just that they need to be careful with the numbers. So they've distributed an amount of pre-orders now, and it looks like as they make more consoles, they will then tell companies like Amazon and Shop2 and whoever and Game that here's another allocation of blah amount of boxes. So I wouldn't panic just too much yet. There is a massive shout that you'll still be able to get them in the run up to Christmas. So we'll see what happens. So I don't think it's the be all and end all if you didn't manage to get one just yet. And yeah, I mean, it was just chaos, absolute chaos. It's quite funny. I love stuff like this though. It's quite funny, but I say that because I've managed to get one. I wouldn't be saying that if I hadn't managed to get one, would I? Cool, blimey, people. I've got a dry throat. That was a long ramble, wasn't it? Still got more to go, people. That's not the end. Right. So that was my journey with it. So the PS5 details are, the PS5 in this country is £450. It's $499 in the United States of America. And it's the digital version. So that's the one with the Blu-ray drive in it. The PS5 digital edition without the drive in it is £360 in this country and $399 in the United States of America. So the price-wise, they matched the Xbox Series X, which I think they had to do, to be fair. I think we know that the Xbox Series X has got the extra teraflops, people. Teraflops. What does it even mean? But it's slightly more powerful anyway in the world of teraflops. Whether it's actually more powerful in the grand design of things when it comes down to architecture, I guess we'll find out. And so they've matched that price. Clearly they weren't going to match the $299 price for the Xbox Series S, which is a very, very entry level into next gen. So I think $399 is a great price. I mean, it's $100 more than the Xbox Series S, but it's got all of the great power that the PS5 has got. It's just missing the drive. That's the only change between the two things. I'm surprised at that a little bit because I thought that would have been maybe maybe 439 or something like that. But I think they've done that price after seeing the 299 price on the other one. I think that probably is what's pushed them to pull it down a little bit. Just my thoughts, people. I'm not saying it's fact. More available at launch. We talked about that. Yeah, so, I mean, Amazon already seems to be restocking things because I tried to buy the charge unit on Amazon yesterday and I couldn't. And that's when I ended up in the Shop2 nightmare. I mean, God bless them. I mean, their website's been awful for a long time. I mean, they've started to make it look a lot better, but it's still so slow. And yet, it's even worse at a time like that when it gets bombarded. But anyway. So Amazon, yeah, today I got an email because I clicked on the thing on Amazon because it said currently unavailable. I clicked on the button to say, let me know when it's available again. And today I got an email saying it was available again. But there was no point in me ordering it because I'd already ordered it on Shop2. And the way that I've done it on Shop2, I used PayPal. And if you use PayPal, you can't sort of cancel stuff because you kind of pay for it straight away. So, but it's fine. I don't mind where it's coming from, really. But I did click on the link anyway, but it had already gone. So, it said currently available and then it's currently unavailable within about, 10 minutes. So they're really sought after. 99% of PS4 games are back compatible. We've talked about that, people. So here's another thing, right? Moving on. There was a bit of a lull because it suddenly came out in this blog as well, PlayStation blog, that Spider-Man Miles Morales, Horizon Forbidden West are also PS4 games. So in the hype to the PS5, that really wasn't mentioned at all. That's unfair, actually, because Miles Morales, I'm sure that they told people that was on PS4 as well ages ago. But Horizon Forbidden West that's bizarre to me. Like, why you would make that game for... Well, it's not bizarre to me. I mean, it's good business because there's so many gazillion PlayStation 4s out there. Why would you not want people to buy it for it? So I get the business side of it, but it's starting to feel like that everybody was going, oh, what are Xbox doing, trying to make stuff, cross-gen compatible? Like, Halo shouldn't be playable on an Xbox One. It should be an Xbox Series X. But it's starting to feel like PlayStation are doing exactly the same thing to the greater degree. But they have, at the very least, made Demon's Souls for just the PS5. And you can tell by looking at it, it looks fantastic. So it was a little bit of a lull there. Games prices in themselves, moving on to my last point, people. I have no idea how long I've been talking for. It must be closing in on an hour, people, or 45 minutes. But the games prices have gone up. Why did I close that? Yeah, the game prices seem to have gone up to... It's varying dramatically as it happens. But I've seen game prices for, anywhere from $51.99 to $54.99, and then up to, if you go for the special editions and stuff. I don't think I've seen one at £60 yet, but... And also, a lot of the new games, I mean, there was one on... What was the one I was talking about yesterday? Oh, it was Immortals Phoenix Rising. I think on Shop 2 you can pre-order it and it's like £46 something because they've dropped the price. So I think if you look about strongly enough, I think you'll be all right. But I think when it comes to first-party games, like Demon's Souls is like 60 quid or something. I think that might be the one that I saw at £60. So, after saying I didn't see any at £60, I'm pretty sure Demon's Souls, I think that might be 60 quid. But somebody proved me wrong. But if you look around, I think you'll still find that there's great offers everywhere. And, I think with first-party titles, though, you're always going to be bound to a fixed greater price. And they'll always stay high in value if they're good. And we have that this gen. The Last of Us Part 2 and, Ghost of Tsushima, they were all like... 50 quid, 49.99 I think they were. So we're looking at an extra £10 for these new gen games. I find it a little bit cheeky because we already had that price hike not that long ago. Like, they started making these games not 40 quid anymore, 50 quid about a year and a half ago maybe. And now they're using the excuse of new gen to just charge us an extra 10 quid. For what reason was that? Because we went for decades without having any price hike. It was like 40 quid, 40 quid, 40 quid. And now in a year, we've gone from 50 quid, new gen, new gen 60 quid. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, it didn't cost you more to make that game for new gen, did it? You know what I mean? But that's maybe a bit unfair, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud. Because if you think about it, if they've got to make versions of this game for, the PlayStation would be the same. PlayStation 5, say. Then they're making it for PlayStation 4 as well, say. Then they're making it for Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, which is a cut down version, so they need to tweak it for that. Then you've got Xbox One, if you're going to put it on there as well. Certainly in the initial stages. And then, of course, as you have more power, you have more ability to do stuff, you have more development time, so I kind of get it. I just don't get why the hike is so high. Like, you can't stick it up by 10 quid every 2 years. People won't be able to afford to buy your games, people. And you're going to do yourself a disservice, because what people will do is they will only buy the absolutely have to have day one title on day one. And they will sit and they will wait for the price to drop, which it will, and then they'll buy it. So if you want to keep your fans on side, then and get a massive hit on day one, then don't price yourself out of it, because developers are basically supported by you buying it new. They're not supported in any way whatsoever by you trading your disc in. And I realise a lot of it's going digital. I mean, here's another thing. If it's 60 quid for a physical copy of that game. What on God's green earth are they going to charge you on the store? Because the stores are usually about 10 quid dearer. Which is just another thing that winds me right up. I mean, that store should be competing heavily with the physical market. It's no wonder people don't want to move to digital services when they're paying an extra £10 for a game simply because I mean, you should cost less. You're not paying for a box. You're not paying for a disc. You're not paying for shipment. It should be less on the bloody store, not more. I've never understood that philosophy at all. I mean, more often than not, there's sales and stuff on, but new games stay pricey for a long time. Anyway, should we finish with a positive? Should we think? I'm just excited, people. I'm very excited. We've got now 22nd. Oh, we've got confirmation. Here you go. On the same day as all this chaos yesterday, Microsoft tweeted up later on in the day saying, "Don't worry, there won't be any mad." I can't remember, but they had a little dig at Sony for making it so chaotic. So they basically said all of these stores in the UK, this was Xbox UK, all of these stores in the UK will be selling will go live with Xbox Series X and S pre-orders at I want to say 8 a.m, but it might be 9 a.m. I think it's 9 a.m. But it might be 8 a.m. I think it's 8 a.m. actually, now that I think about it. 8 a.m. on the 22nd of September, next week, people. So I am going to be here, hovering on my laptop with 2 shops open, I think. I'll try and do it in the main one, which is Amazon first, and then I'll maybe have 2 going. I won't order 2, though, but whichever one gets me a winner, but I'm going to be just ready to order the damn thing. To be fair, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I've got a feeling, that the Xbox Series S might sell out first. Because it's $299 and there'll be a lot of families, a lot of mums and dads thinking about getting their kids either their first console or, the follow-up to whatever their previous console was, thinking for $299, I'm having it. So, or 200 and what is that in this country? £250, was it? Something like that. So I think it's going to be extremely interesting to see what happens with their pre-orders and whether or not they actually sell out. And remember that the Xbox seem to have made more, though. They seem to have been able to cope with the volumes more. I don't think they suffered as heavily with supply on components for whatever reason. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I've also got, there's a little part of me that feels like PlayStation did a lot of this on purpose so that it feels like it's the rarest thing in the world, like the Wii U was when it first came out. The Wii when it first came out. And the Wii was genuinely under-manufactured though, wasn't it? I mean, they just couldn't make them quickly enough. And there was I think a bit of them as a company liked the fact that there were just constantly queues for people wanting them. I don't know. It feels after the statement today, it feels like they know fine and well they're going to have plenty more available before Christmas. But they've made everybody feel like that if you didn't get it yesterday or today or tomorrow, you're not going to get one. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the coming month. And it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens on... when is the 22nd, people? What's the date today? 18, 19, 20, 21. So it's Tuesday, 8 a.m. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to be ready to click the button. I'm going to have Xbox Series X typed in. refresh till it pops up, and then I'm just going to go bang, 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 bang in my basket. Thank you. Paid. So, and that'll be me sorted, people, for the new gen. I'm super stoked that I managed to get a PlayStation 5. Let me know in the comments below if you managed to get one, or if you're really cheesed off because you didn't manage to get one, or you woke up and realised that they'd all gone. Even after Sony had said that they wouldn't drop it like that, but they did. And yeah, I'm uberly excited now that I know I'm going to have a PlayStation 5 on day one. I know that I'm going to have Demon's Soul. I can't see Demon's Soul running out. I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I can't see it running out. So at some point, I'll pre-order Demon's Souls. I'll have that for day one. With the Xbox Series X, I think what I'll be doing is I'll be taking some big hitting titles from my existing collection, and I'll be recording some footage for you guys, well, some Let's Play for you guys on big games that I think you might want to see, as to see how well they run on the Xbox Series X. So I'll have a think about that, and whether or not I do them before we see any kind of update hit. You know, I think certainly something like The Witcher, for example, which I've still got sat there on the Xbox, which I haven't played yet. Played it on the PS4 originally. So whether I actually, with a game like that, wait for what we know is coming, which is the big patch, which will make it a PS5 version from... why am I forgetting the company's name? From the company. And CD Projekt Red, thank you. I heard somebody call it from the ether. Well, so I think I'll probably wait for that on that one. But there will be games that probably won't get a patch like that. Maybe things like, I don't know, Fallout, Skyrim, Kingdoms of Amalur, Reckoning Remaster, which we just got. I talked about the fact that I was only going to do 3 episodes of that, or Let's Plays of that remaster, because I thought it would be useful to see what it looks like on the Series X. So I might do a bigger Let's Play on this Series X with that. So I've got all sorts of ideas for the Series X while I consider what new gen type of experience I look for first. Medium is one that I think I might get stuck into pretty quickly. So there are things I'm contemplating for the Series X, but in the main part, I want that uber power for my third-party titles. I want that backward compatibility to see how they're going to look on it, and they're expanding that backward compatibility library as well. So I'm just so excited for it all, people. And I'm super excited now, because no matter what happens on Tuesday, I know I've got one of the 2 consoles coming for day one. And hopefully, fingers crossed, Tuesday I can get my Series X pre-ordered, and then I know that's coming as well. And I'm not going to be paying out a huge amount for games either, because I've only got Demon's Souls is the only thing I'm going to buy day one for the PlayStation 5, and depending on what Microsoft confirm for day one, if Medium is one of those things, then I might get that for day one. But other than that, it's going to be all about seeing just how amazing some of the stuff I've got that existing is playing, and just having that uber experience with this great power in the universe, people. So there you are, people. That's it. That's all I have for you. Oh dear, blimey, it's thirsty work, this. You know. Do you notice I put the scented candle on for you again? I know you all love it. You know what I mean? Flagons up to you all, people. Well, that was marvellous, that was. I think I managed to cover everything. Christ knows what I'm going to talk about next week, because there can't possibly be any more to say, is there? Well, I can at least talk about whether or not I managed to pre-order my Xbox Series X, or what horrific nightmare that became. Hopefully it won't be one. So there you are, people. That is it. It has been... Oh, let me know in the comments below, by the way, about any of the things we've been talking about. Talk to me, people. You know how much I love hearing from you. I always reply, people, unless you're a knob. If you're a knob, I don't reply to you, but I always reply in any other scenario. There you are. So let me know in the comments below about any of the things I've been talking about, your opinions, your thoughts, your experience trying to get a PlayStation 5, all that sort of stuff. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you in this podcast of mine today, and I shall see you all in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.